August 23, 1999. Huntsville, Alabama. A network administrator at NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center stares at his monitor. Something is wrong. Files are moving, not being accessed by any logged user, not triggered by any scheduled process, just quietly, invisibly moving. He leans closer. The transfer logs show data streaming out of the system to an unknown external address. He checks the user list. Nothing. He checks the login records. Clean. He runs a diagnostic. The system reports everything normal, but the files are still moving. He calls his supervisor. His supervisor calls security. Security calls the Defense Department. Because what's being pulled off this server isn't just any data. It's source code. Functional, classified software that controls the temperature and oxygen levels aboard the International Space Station. The kind of code that, in the wrong hands, could mean astronauts suffocate in orbit. They trace the connection. The signal bounces through proxy servers, hops across 3 states, and lands at a residential IP address in Pinecrest, Florida, a quiet suburb south of Miami. They pull the account details. The address belongs to a family home. They contact local law enforcement. Officers drive to the house. They knock on the door. Inside, sitting at a second-hand computer in his bedroom, is a 15-year-old boy. His name is Jonathan James, and he has been inside NASA's network for weeks. Pinecrest, Florida, 1989. Jonathan Joseph James is 6 years old when he first sits down at his father's computer. Robert James is a programmer. The household runs on technology the way other families run on sports or music. For most kids, a computer is a toy. For Jonathan, it's a language. He doesn't play on it. He talks to it. By age 10, he's writing his own basic programs. Not because his father taught him, but because he took the machine apart, figured out how it worked, and put it back together with better ideas. His teachers describe him as quiet, intensely focused, slightly bored. He finishes assignments early and spends the rest of class reading programming manuals his classmates can't even pronounce. His parents buy him his first personal computer when he's 12. Within 6 months, he's exhausted everything the local library has on networking. He starts reading online forums, connecting with other programmers and hobbyists in the early internet's chaotic chat rooms. He discovers a subculture he's never encountered at school. People who think about systems the way he does. People who believe that if you understand something deeply enough, you can find the seam where it comes apart. At 13, his obsession crosses a line. He accesses the Miami-Dade School District's network and pulls his own academic records. Not to change them, he's pulling straight A's, just to see if he can. He also corrects a few minor errors while he's in there, unauthorized edits to a system he had no business being inside. His parents find out. They take his computer away. Jonathan runs away from home. He doesn't come back until they return it. His father will later tell investigators that they should have seen what was coming. But the truth is, nothing about Jonathan looked dangerous from the outside. He was polite, thoughtful, rarely in trouble at school. He just happened to see every computer network on Earth as a puzzle waiting to be solved. And he was very, very good at solving them. By 1999, at 15, Jonathan has chosen a handle for himself. See Zero Mrade. The zero replacing the letter O in classic 1990s hacker style. A small wink at the establishment, a signal to anyone who knew the culture that he was one of them. He builds his reputation slowly in underground forums, trading techniques, sharing discoveries, learning from older hackers who don't yet know they're talking to a high school freshman. He starts small. Bell South's telecommunications network. The Miami-Dade school system again, deeper this time. These aren't attacks. He's not destroying anything or stealing money. He's mapping territory, learning how real systems fail. Every network has a door left unlocked somewhere. A server running an old version of software. An administrator who used the same password twice. A patch that never got applied because someone in IT was too busy. Jonathan finds those doors the way other teenagers find shortcuts to school. Instinctively, without trying very hard. But small doors lead to bigger rooms. Summer, 1999. Jonathan begins scanning government networks. Not because he has a political agenda. Not because he wants to leak secrets or embarrass anyone. He scans them because they're supposed to be the hardest thing to break into. And hard things interest him more than easy ones. He focuses his attention on servers running Red Hat Linux. In 1999, cybersecurity is a different world. Firewalls are rudimentary. Intrusion detection systems are rare, expensive, and barely functional. Patch management means someone in IT eventually getting around to installing updates, sometimes months after vulnerabilities are discovered. The gap between what systems claim to be secure and what they actually are is enormous. Jonathan knows this because he's been reading the vulnerability databases obsessively for 2 years. He finds his first entry point through a router in Dulles, Virginia. It connects to a server belonging to the Defense Threat Reduction Agency, the DTRA. Their official mission is monitoring and reducing threats from nuclear, biological, and chemical weapons. One of the most sensitive divisions in the entire Department of Defense. Jonathan installs a backdoor, a small piece of code, invisible to standard scans, that lets him return to the system whenever he wants without needing to find the door again. Then he deploys a packet sniffer, a tool that captures raw network traffic and lets him read data flowing through the system, including login credentials typed by employees who have no idea anyone is watching. Over the following weeks, he intercepts more than 3,000 internal emails. He collects 19 usernames and passwords. 10 of those belong to accounts on military computers. He reads communications between defense officials about weapons programs, personnel matters, internal security assessments. Things that were never supposed to leave the building. Things that would have ended careers and triggered national security reviews if anyone knew a teenager in Florida was reading them over breakfast. But nobody knows, because Jonathan covers his tracks. After every session, he cleans the logs, removes his access footprints, makes the system look like nothing happened. He's not being reckless. He's being methodical, professional even. The kind of discipline that most adults working in actual cybersecurity don't practice. He could have stayed in the DTRA network indefinitely, but he's already looking at something bigger. September 1999. NASA's Marshall Space Flight Center in Huntsville, Alabama runs some of the most sophisticated computing infrastructure on Earth. The Marshall Center manages propulsion research, develops hardware for future missions, and maintains critical software systems that support active astronauts in orbit. The servers are supposed to be locked down behind layers of institutional security, access controls, and monitoring systems. Jonathan finds a gap in under 4 hours. He doesn't crash through the front door. He slips in through a misconfigured server on the network's edge, one that IT had been meaning to patch for 2 months. From there, he moves laterally through the network, escalating privileges with stolen credentials, moving from low-security systems to higher access, one's the way you'd walk from one room to the next in an unlocked house. He reaches the core system, and there it is, the source code for NASA's International Space Station Life Support Software. 13 different programs managing the physical environment aboard the station. Oxygen generation, carbon dioxide removal, temperature regulation. The systems that keep human beings alive 250 miles above Earth. The software package is valued at $1.7 million. Jonathan downloads the entire thing. He is 15 years old. He is sitting in his bedroom in Florida, and he has just stolen the blueprint for keeping astronauts alive. He copies the code to his local drive and reads through it for days. Not to sell it, not to sabotage anything. He wants to understand how NASA thinks, how the world's most advanced space agency writes code, what they prioritize, where they cut corners. To Jonathan, this is the same thing as taking apart a radio to see how it works. He just happens to be taking apart something that cost $1 billion and is currently keeping 6 people alive in outer space. For weeks, nothing happens. He moves through the network freely, reading files, mapping systems, learning. The access logs show his presence, but nobody is checking them closely enough to see the pattern. Then, one morning in late August, a network administrator at Marshall notices something he can't explain. Files are moving. The moment NASA security identifies the breach, the response is immediate and total. They shut down the Marshall Center's network completely. Every connected system goes offline. 21 days. The shutdown costs NASA $41,000 in investigation and repair costs alone, separate from the value of the stolen software. Engineers scramble to assess the damage, audit every accessed file, and determine whether the intruder left any malicious code behind. Meanwhile, federal investigators trace the connection back to Pinecrest. They identify the IP address, They contact the Secret Service, which handles cybercrime cases involving federal systems. Agents begin building a picture of who C0 Mraid is. They pull forum posts. They talk to network contacts. They map the breach signatures back to earlier intrusions into Bell South and the Miami-Dade School District. Everything points to one address. One bedroom. One teenager. January 26, 2000. Pre-dawn. A Secret Service task force hits the James family home. Agents move through the house in the gray morning light, past family photographs and cereal boxes, to the room at the end of the hall. They find Jonathan asleep. They wake him and sit him down at his own desk while they take his computer apart piece by piece, bagging drives and cables as evidence. During the raid, agents find something else: a firearm and a suicide note from a previous attempt. Jonathan James has been struggling with more than just boredom. He's 16 years old and already carrying something very heavy. He is charged with 2 counts of juvenile delinquency for computer crimes. He pleads guilty. His attorney argues that he caused no physical harm, deleted nothing, and stole nothing in the traditional sense. No money changed hands. No weapon systems were compromised. No astronauts were endangered. The software was copied, not removed. The judge is not particularly moved by the distinction. Jonathan James becomes the first juvenile in United States history to be sentenced to prison for cybercrime. He serves 7 months at a juvenile detention facility, followed by probation until his 18th birthday. The conditions are strict. No computers, no internet, no contact with known hackers. In a television interview with PBS Frontline conducted after his release, Jonathan sits calm and slightly distant, answering questions with the measured tone of someone who has rehearsed their composure. When asked if he felt he did anything wrong, he pauses. "I didn't think I was doing anything criminal," he says. "I was just playing around." But the system had a different word for it. And the system had just written his name in a file it would never close. 2000 to 2007. Jonathan serves his probation, ages out of the juvenile system, and tries to build a life on the other side of his conviction. It isn't easy. A federal cybercrime record at 16 follows you everywhere. Every job application, every background check, every attempt at a normal career runs into the same wall. The kid who broke into NASA can't get hired to manage a company's IT network because nobody trusts him with a keyboard. He drifts, works odd jobs, stays connected to the hacking community online, not in any active criminal capacity, just as someone who still thinks in that language. He's known in certain circles, respected, sometimes approached by people who want his technical knowledge. He keeps his distance from anything that would violate his probation or draw federal attention. He turns 18, then 20, then 22. The NASA hack recedes into history, becoming a story people tell as both cautionary tale and legend. The kid who broke into NASA, the youngest federal cybercriminal in American history. C0 Mraid. He tries to let the alias go. It's harder than it sounds. When your most defining act happened at 15, the rest of your life is measured against it. Then, in January 2007, everything changes. TJX Companies, the parent corporation behind TJ Maxx, Marshalls, and HomeGoods, discloses a catastrophic data breach. 45.6 million credit card numbers stolen. One of the largest corporate data thefts in history at that point. The breach is eventually traced to a Miami-based cybercriminal named Albert Gonzalez, who runs an international network of hackers and identity thieves. The investigation is massive. The Secret Service works for months mapping Gonzalez's network of associates. And some of those associates know Jonathan James. Not as a co-conspirator in the TJX breach, but from the same South Florida hacking forums, the same underground communities, the same overlapping digital world Jonathan has been part of since he was 13. The Secret Service pulls forum logs. They find references to a hacker known as JJ. The initials match. The location matches. The background matches. In January 2008, agents return to the address they first visited 8 years earlier. They raid Jonathan's home again. His brother's home. His girlfriend's property. They seize computers. They question everyone who knows him. They search for any thread connecting Jonathan James to Gonzalez's operation, to the TJX breach, to millions of stolen credit card numbers. They find nothing. No direct evidence. No confirmed connection. No charge is ever filed against Jonathan James in the TJX case. But the investigation destroys him anyway. He had spent 8 years rebuilding something after the NASA conviction. Some version of a life. Some tentative peace with what he was and what he'd done. The second raid strips that away completely. He watches agents box up his computers again. He answers the same questions again. He feels the same eyes on him again. And he knows that with a prior federal conviction, with a record that will never disappear, with his name already in every cybercrime database in the country, the presumption of innocence is theoretical at best. He starts writing. May 18, 2008. Pinecrest, Florida. Jonathan James is found dead in his home. A self-inflicted gunshot wound. He is 24 years old. Next to his body, investigators find a 5-page handwritten suicide note. In it, he denies any involvement in the TJX breach. He describes losing faith in a justice system that he believes will convict him for a crime he didn't commit simply because of who he is and what he once did. He writes, "I have no faith in the justice system. Perhaps my actions today, and this letter, will send a stronger message to the public. Either way, I have lost control of this situation, and this is my only way to regain it. And then, I honestly had nothing to do with TJX. No charges were ever filed." Albert Gonzalez was convicted in 2010 and sentenced to 20 years in prison. The unnamed JJ in the federal complaint was never identified as Jonathan James in any official legal document. He was a suspect, a person of interest, never a defendant. He died a month after what would have been his final answer. The story of Jonathan James doesn't fit cleanly into any of the categories the system tried to put him in. He wasn't a spy. He wasn't a terrorist. He wasn't a thief, not in any conventional sense. He was a kid who understood computers better than the people paid to secure them, who found open doors and systems that were supposed to be impenetrable and walked through them because nobody told him not to in language he understood. NASA spent $41,000 investigating a breach caused by someone who couldn't legally drive a car. The Defense Threat Reduction Agency, tasked with monitoring nuclear threats, had its internal communications read by a high school student on a dial-up connection. The most powerful government on Earth was outsmarted by a teenager whose most dangerous weapon was curiosity. And the system that failed to protect those networks turned around and spent years pursuing Jonathan James, while the actual TJX hackers operated freely for another 8 years. In 2010, hackers from the same community that raised him were convicted and imprisoned. Jonathan James wasn't among them, because Jonathan James was already gone. His alias, C0 Mraid, still appears in cybersecurity textbooks, case studies, training materials for federal investigators. He became a lesson in what an unprotected network looks like, in what happens when curiosity outpaces law, and in what a justice system does to people it's never been designed to handle. He hacked NASA at 15. He was caught, convicted, and released. He spent 8 years trying to outrun that. And in the end, it wasn't the hack that destroyed him. It was the assumption that because he'd done it once, he was capable of anything. That the government could look at a file with his name on it and decide the rest of his story before he'd had a chance to write it. C0 Mraid is gone. But if you want to see what happens when a government actually builds a weapon designed to destroy infrastructure from the inside, one that no teenager could have dreamed up alone, check out our video on the zero-day exploit that almost started a war. Because the story of Jonathan James is where digital crime looks like curiosity. The next story is where it looks like something else entirely.